Hey, this is Chase Buttice, and I'm making a video today about stepping into your power, what it means, what it looks like, why it's challenging for many of us, and how to transcend that. So, first, I want to talk about what power is, because for many thousands of years, because of the systems at large that have been mainly hierarchical, meaning one thing at the top and everybody striving for that spot, which breeds competition, enslavement, and power over dynamics. Most of us believe that power, and if you have power, means to have power over. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you think power should be, but it's how we've all been conditioned to believe power is. So try to take that in for a minute because it's true. So we're moving from an age, because we're in the middle of shifting paradigms from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. We're moving from power over dynamics to collaborative dynamics, meaning power is going to become shared like an infinity loop. That is actually true power. True power is when it's shared and it's collaborative. So many of us don't actually know how to do that. We know in our gut that it's the right thing, but we're so entrained towards that number one spot. And there's innate jealousy or belief systems that are around somebody in the spotlight or somebody that is exercising power. Now, power itself does not mean to have power over others. It actually is connected to the realm of light. And when you are exercising power, it means that you are exercising higher realms of consciousness. And through that process, you're shining a light. It's like literally like turning the power on. Literally, like that's why they call it power. So when you turn the light on, like a light shines, right? And so authentic power and true power is when we're tapping a higher source of wisdom, and that consciousness is coming through us, exercising itself through us as light. And through that light, we can employ vision, creation, and take up a certain amount of space. Also, things that employ power, they're bright. People look at them, they shine. And in our former culture, we've believed that when something shines brightly, it's innately taking power away from something else. It's putting something else in the dark, which is not true. The world that we are all moving into is one where someone can shine their light and exercise their power, and in the same moment give that light, allow someone else to shine theirs, and not feel that deep competition or that need to dominate or that insecurity or that fear. Underneath all of it is a deep fear that if somebody else shines their light, it's taking yours away, which all comes down to security. And so redefining the idea of power, number one, is really important, okay? So start thinking about power as consciousness and light, okay? And that it's not having power over anyone. It's just how much consciousness you are able to exude, employ, open to, allow, okay? Which we'll get into because that exercises focus, right? So the second piece is so power, when it's shared, becomes a whole different dynamic, okay? And when you start opening yourself up to realizing that when you are exercising your power, it doesn't mean that you are hurting somebody. So a lot of people believe that if they exercise their power, they're innately hurting someone. I can't tell you the amount of clients I have that are afraid of their power because, well, there's a few different reasons. I work with a lot of like highly intuitive people, and they naturally have a witch's wound, which comes from exercising or showing or exposing your power, your consciousness, and being, exiled or, killed for it. So that's one, and that's a ancestral DNA thing, but we're all collectively working through it right now. Thus, with the this video coming out, this is all part of it. So that's one thing, okay? That's something that's like a deep thing that keeps us from shining our light. What I can say is that we are in the Age of Aquarius, which is out of the Age of Pisces, and I can say that it is safe for the witches of the world to begin to shine our light. I can say that. I can say that with clarity, and I can say that with certainty. So, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but so there's that natural piece of feeling like, okay, I'm scared to shine my light. And then there's this other piece that if you do shine your light, which I have a few clients going through this right now, they feel guilty. They feel guilty. And I can't tell you the amount of people, women, a lot of women, and there's men too that are highly empathic, highly sensitive men that feel guilty for expressing their power because, and I mean, I'm in this camp as well. It's true. It's that idea that if I express my power, someone else will lose theirs, or I will take away, or I will upset somebody. I will upset somebody for shining my light, and it's like that quote, if you dim your light so the whole world can shine, if you dim your light so others can shine, the whole world gets darker. And that is the truth. It's a beautiful analogy. It's from Mrs. Doubtfire. But think about that, okay? So we're working through the mechanisms and the awareness of the mechanisms of shame and guilt when you are employing power. I had a client the other day talk to me about she's coming into new levels of power. A lot of people are right now. A lot of people are. Okay? Which is new awareness, new consciousness, new focus, new inspiration. And it's, shedding during these times. And she said something took her over. She said she called it a power surge, and something came through. She was in like a work meeting and something came through, and she could feel how she upset the people around her by what she had, just by being herself, but being more direct and having that kind of powerful, unapologetic, being unapologetic. And then right away she could feel how others were taking her, and she automatically started feeling bad because it was upsetting others that she was shining her light so bright. I'm here to tell you that it's not your responsibility to take on the emotions of others when you are expressing your power. It's not your responsibility that somebody feels powerless because you are expressing your power. That is the essence of codependency. And for people that are highly sensitive, coming out of the Age of Pisces, that's why we never expressed our power, because we felt that. And then we keep ourselves small and the whole world gets darker. We're moving on to the Age of Aquarius now, which is all about detachment. And that is kind of the key theme. If you are going to learn how to authentically step into your power, you have to detach from what other people are projecting onto you or absorbing their energy. Because if you do, you will never allow yourself to shine. And it really comes down to the realization that you are not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. It's not dangerous. It's not hurting anyone. And you're not a bad person for doing it. It's kind of funny that we have to say that, but a lot of us feel that way. A lot of us do. A lot of us feel that if we exercise our power, we're hurting someone. Isn't that wild? It's actually the opposite. It's actually the opposite. If you learn how to exercise your power and hold that frequency, you slowly actually become a mentor for others. Because if you are somebody that is truly highly sensitive, some crazy hair here today. If you're somebody that is truly highly sensitive and you are taking on somebody else's, you're really, really absorbing their whatever. If you start actually creating authentic boundaries and detaching around their emotions, you are never going to be somebody that is going to be wanting to have power over. That only happens when we haven't reconciled with our shadows and we're still operating out of wounding. But for the most part, those of us that are highly sensitive, at least, I mean, for me, I want to share power. I don't want anybody to feel powerless. That is actually probably the last thing I want. That's probably the very last thing I want. But you can't, if we want this earth to change and we want to start sharing power, number one, we have to start exercising power. And number two, our power. And number two, we have to show what it means to share it. So it's going to be an awkward period of being around people who are feeling threatened by your power. So shared power is that infinity loop where you're going back and forth. And what that looks like is expressing your power, expressing your light, expressing your wisdom, expressing whatever, and then giving it, seeing the light in someone else and allowing them to shine, and then receiving their light, receiving their wisdom, receiving them. So people at the top believe that they are superior, right? So they don't really believe that there's that many people that they can truly receive from. And because of this idea of superiority. So when we're in a collaborative state, we're expressing and then we're receiving. It's like a wave. That's what the infinity loop is. That's also what the spiral is. These are the natural movements of all creation. And that's what shared power is. So start thinking about that. Start thinking about that for yourself, what that looks like in your own life. And then, the last thing I want to talk about with the power, stepping into your power, is one of the major things that it requires is that it requires focus and willpower. So, and discipline, which I'm going to make a separate video about those three things because those are major themes coming up too right now, especially for the age we're living in, which is filled with distractions. But, it's insane. And distraction is how people have power over you. Is being distracted is how you are controlled. And I was watching something, and there was this quote which said, "With no focus, there's no greatness," and that is damn true. And so, when you're starting to, one of the things I have a course on this, which is it's all connected to energetic boundaries as well, but when you're stepping into your power and you're starting to exercise your voice or light or consciousness, detachment, but also focusing on what you are doing, on yourself, on your lane versus everybody else, and the will to focus and the discipline to focus is what can really help you not just shine the light, but keep the light on. The empaths, the highly sensitive people, we have lived our lives making sure that other people are okay. I know I did for the first 40 years of my life. I lived my life to making sure everybody else around me was okay before I really allowed myself to step into my power. And it's because, through a patriarchal world culture, and as we were in the age of Pisces, the Piscean energy, which is a 2,000-year cycle, which we've just left, It's all about martyrdom. And the feminine principle itself, the sensitive ones, we have put ourselves in positions of servitude because our natural and innate gifts have not been something that the culture at large has valued until now. And so we've busied ourselves with everyone else's energy. And that's what the world is kind of made up of nowadays, is everybody busying themselves with other people's energy, so that we don't have to actually focusing on your own truth, your own gifts, your own potential, and your own creativity, and bringing that out is one of the most potent, powerful, important, difficult, and rewarding maturity. It rules the elements of maturity. And it takes focus and will. It takes focus, will, and discipline. So those are kind of the pillars of what I wanted to talk about today with power dynamics, and what it means to step into your power. Just remember that you exercising your power does not mean you're taking away from anybody. You exercising your power is showing others what it means to have power and then to share power. We are models of the new earth. The Aquarian virtues, which is Age of Aquarius energy, is shared power. It's collaborative. So we're moving from the triangle, one person at the top, to the circle. Everybody gets a piece of the pie, and it's collaborative. That's Aquarian. So I think that's all I wanted to share today. I don't want this video to be too long. I want to be able to make it digestible. But I hope you guys got something from this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. You can always message me. My website, chasebuttice.com, Instagram @chasebuttice, and I'm here for you. All right. I love you guys. See you later.